I'm a big Mass Effect fan. I've talked about this time and time again, especially when we were doing the Dragon Age, the Veilguard stuff, and honestly, the failure of that game having a knock-on effect with Mass Effect 5, or whatever the heck they're going to call it when this thing ultimately gets announced, I'm thinking probably somewhere around Summer Games Fest, we'll probably get a little bit more of an indication after they've done and buried the Veilguard for the final time. And it's funny how that thing is still trying to knock around. It'll be interesting to see deep the discount for the winter sale that thing's ultimately going to be getting, because even in the off hours, what is it, 35% off? But I digress on that one. The original trilogy, Mass Effects 1, 2, and 3, those are phenomenal games. It's been a while since I played them, and I'm getting the itch for it, but one of the games that turned me off of gaming, full stop, was 2018's Andromeda. I stopped playing games for a long time after that. No, 2017 Andromeda came out. Regardless, all of the failings of the Veilguard were writ large across Andromeda. Insufferable characters, pathetic dialogue, and busted-ass gameplay. That was all there in Andromeda, so why would I think a studio that has shown its worth recently somehow magically come through with a banger in the next couple of years with Mass Effect 5, when you have the lead creatives move over from Dragon Age onto Mass Effect 5? Why would I think that they would go ahead and up their game? It's dead on arrival. It sucks because, yeah, I really like this franchise. It's just, I don't know if they're going to be around as a studio to put out 5. Anyways, BioWare's current Mass Effect 5 build features pronoun selection because, of course, it's like, we know it will. And for both of the people that are going to be out there to play this, I'm sure they're excited for this inclusion. New rumor alleges that BioWare's current build for Mass Effect 5 features pronoun selections. This rumor comes from Reddit user Reddit API Blackout24, who shared it in the subreddit Kotaku in Action subreddit. Also since been removed from the subreddit by moderators. Nevertheless, the user shared, we got an all-hands-on-deck meeting last week. Developers were asked for delay features. Were asked to delay features, art, and content that may be deemed woke or political and defer them to future patches. As quality assurance testers, we were tasked to report if we audit or detect anything that might resemble them, so they can be fixed. The company wants to launch the game as clean as possible and introduce woke stuff silently through patches. So yeah, BioWare learned from the failures of the Veilguard, but are they willing to give up on the messaging? I don't know. Ideologues never do. They're employing the strategy that I and many other people said that they would. Okay, these lefty ideologues, man, they never learn from their mistakes. They just simply hold their ground. They realize that they overstepped with the Veilguard. They realize that they overstepped in many other venues, but simply they received some pushback. And instead of doing any sort of introspection, they're just simply going to hold their ground and maintain all of the gains that they got in the industry. Okay, we're going to see how Avowed ultimately flops, because the pronouns were just simply a tip-off as to what the direction that Obsidian is going. We'll just see how many woke elements are going to be a part of the Outer Worlds Part 2. That was also announced at the Game Awards, but it's funny how nobody's mentioning that game at all whatsoever, maybe because Outer Worlds 1 wasn't really anything to write home about. Which was also another indication to, you don't really get your hopes up for Avowed, because when it comes to making their own unique IPs, yeah, they're mostly specialists at finishing other people's homework, okay? Like, what are their 2 biggest successes? That's The Old Republic 2 and New Vegas. Yeah. But you got Matt Hansen and all of those leaked Slack messages that shows, oh boy, there's quite a few activists on that development side of things. Which is why when February rolls around, oh boy, it's going to be good eating when it comes to covering the Avowed situation, because it's not going to be good. It's going to be, at worst, a bland and boring third-person RPG. We've seen some of the gameplay, and it is, to say it's uninspiring would be derogatory towards a 5 out of 10 game. It looks trash, bro. It looks outdated if this was a decade ago. And then you throw the rest of that stuff over the top of it, and it's going to be a wrap. And I don't anticipate anything different from Mass Effect 5, because, yeah, the gameplay could end up carrying it, and then they could be trying to stick in all of this ideological nonsense over the top of it at a later date with patches, with DLC, with outside content. But we've seen what they did with Andromeda back in the day, and that is the best that they've done over this past decade. Why would we think anything would make this a game worth playing? But he concluded, I fear this might be industry-wide. Yes, they wouldn't be issuing this so early, okay, which is also another big reason why we haven't really heard any official confirmation. I think BioWare has said that they are working on Mass Effect 5 or the next Mass Effect or something like that. We got that teaser from years ago at this point in time. They just showed a Normandy-like vessel with the Mass Effect jingle in the background. It's like, oh, we're working on something else. And it's like, yeah, we just played Andromeda. No, thank you. Yeah, that's very revelatory. This could be an industry-wide issue, okay? So yeah, just putting games out front to just go ahead and assuage anyone's fears that, oh yeah, this isn't terrible. But that's what I've been saying, okay? When we've been talking about these games, these absolute travesties of video games in 2024, it's like, yeah, okay, you could say that something's woke, okay? You could have your political trappings and not want to engage with a game that has an ugly female protagonist, but what's the dialogue? What's the gameplay like? Okay, you could just simply dismiss Suicide Squad killed the Justice League because he didn't like the way the Batman got dealt with by an insufferable Harley Quinn. I understand that, but did you see the gameplay? Did you hear the dialogue? That thing was terrible from the ground up. Star Wars Outlaws. It wasn't just the old block-chinned cave-ass, okay? It was a buggy, broken disaster that even when it did work, would have had dated gameplay if this was released on the PS2. These games aren't just bad because woke. These political activists masquerading as developers can't do their jobs at all. That's why the industry is in the shape that it's in. Because if they were just simply trying to push the message, they'd be a little bit smarter about doing this. But they aren't. So thank God. And that's why I think in the long term, we will eventually win. People that think the more common sense approach. Because, yeah, for as much as I got, you know, like a little reindeer with a MAGA hat on in the background, okay, I don't need all of my characters out there thinking like I do, okay? I don't in Final Fantasy VII Part 3, okay, and Reclaim. I still think it's going to be called Reclaim. I don't need to have the team going up to the northern continent and Barrett talking about trying to build a wall around the crater so Sephiroth doesn't get out, okay? I don't need to have Tifa dancing in the high wind as entertainment. No. I want the same quality of character interactions and character development and dialogue and subtle gestures and visual storytelling. That's what I want. I want good games. I want fun gameplay. I don't need to have my own personal politics, my own personal sensibilities played to. I just want a good goddamn story. I just want a fun-ass video game to play. And that's not what BioWare has provided in a very, very long time. They used to be the best in the industry, and now, well, they can't. The leaker then shared the word woke was never used, but instead used inclusive content. Okay. The leaker also claimed current build has pronoun selection, because of course it does. As far as how they will inject the propaganda, he detailed that some of it will have to do with decals and skins featuring, yes, gay flags in the, oh god, because I forget specifically how far ahead, but it's centuries ahead of current day, but all of that nonsense is still going to be there. When you can go ahead and bang interspecies, like what are we doing? That's so antiquated. That is quintessential modern dayism. We also have decals and skins based on flags, but they will also be given alt names like Bubblegum Patch and Trans Flag. Oh, the leaker wrote, oh, interesting. Rumor comes on the back of one from Endymion at the end of September. He said at the time, according to my sources, this is one of the most damning allegations, so please listen, is that the games industry across plenty of studios will start to market their games as being devoid of identity politics and pandering almost completely. However, actual content within these games in the future will not be altered or lessened in terms of identity political content despite this tonal change in marketing. Simply put, many studios and publishers are still all in on DEI and wokeness in the future, like they are not changing that, and they still want you to consume this content, you know, wherever you want to or not, and they will sell you the games by marketing them to try to trick you into think that they're not woke, basically. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, all of this was under the auspices of Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is, since that video was released, I think has gone back in the cooker over at Ubisoft for them to go ahead and try to repackage this for February release. And you can imagine when we get the next trailer of this, which I would imagine maybe around Super Bowl time, like if Ubisoft is super desperate or if Tencent is trying to throw in some additional cash on that one, but we'll probably be getting it right around the beginning of the year. And if it looks maybe a little bit more faithfully feudalistic Japan, if it looks a little bit less on the nose race driven, if there's fewer hip hop beats over driving drums, you kind of know which way they're going, because when it's all said and done, you still got your token protagonist, you've still got your all sexes on deck all genders available relationships. You've still got antiquated gameplay. You've still got all of your trappings of a modern day Ubi slop. These ideologues can't do anything but push their own agenda. When they tell you who they are, listen. And once they tell you who they are, don't forget. Because rewarding this bad behavior just because of a couple of good trailers does not teach the industry any lessons. And the sooner that companies like Ubisoft and BioWare are out of business, the sooner we can actually legitimately begin to heal. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.